doopy double.
The makers of Epic Pure Sunflower Oil, Purine and Press Cooking Fat, Yum Yum Peanut Butter, Maple Margarine, Niblets Cheese Twists, Halverine Bread Spread, and Blossom Yellow Margarine present the Epic Casebook. In which Inspector Carr investigates.
Good evening. On all sides, we hear of acts of heroism and noble selflessness, only to be counterbalanced with horrible newspaper stories of a battered baby or a cruel and senseless murder, of torture and mayhem. Happily, one can discern a very marked change in the attitude of the public. I myself witnessed an attempted robbery by a youth wielding a dagger, which was foiled by a passer-by, whose quick and courageous intervention prevented not only an act of robbery, but possibly murder. The public are showing a greater sense of responsibility and cooperation in assisting the police to enforce law and order. I'm prompted to say all this by the latest circular from my old friends at Scotland Yard. Just before Christmas, 2 men were seen leaving a car outside the Home Office building. Within minutes, a bomb went off in the car, injuring a number of people nearby. Now, as a result of information given by several witnesses, Scotland Yard issued what is known as a photo fit picture. The impact was tremendous. Within a matter of days, these descriptions of the 2 men, all varying, yet all making a composite photograph, resulted in the arrest of Kieran and Marlin Coyle. The photo fit is, of course, a development from what was known as identikit, and the success photo fit is achieving rests solely on the ready cooperation of the public. Time was when there was an attitude of, I don't want to get involved, it's no affair of mine. As I've said, the changing world is forcing respectable citizens to wake up to their responsibilities. That wasn't the case when a man known to his associates as Sidney the Spender was murdered. Let me tell you about it. I've called my story Consignment for Death.
Pick a pack of blossoms, get it from fresh taste today. When your breakfast gets them waking in the morning, blossom. For the sandwiches you're making in the midday, blossom. For your roast and baking in the evening, blossom. Pick a pack of blossom.
Blossom Yellow Margarine.
Pick a pack of blossom.
For sandwiches that burst with health and farm-fresh taste.
Pick a pack of blossom.
For frying eggs to a golden turn. For dabbing on your vegetables, carrots, peas, potatoes.
Pick a pack of blossom.
For baking and roasting and spreading on crisp, warm rolls. And satisfying your family with its farm-fresh taste.
Blossom helps a busy mum. Make sure today you're choosing it, using it. Blossom, blossom. Pick a pack of blossom.
Pick a pack of Blossom.
Sidney Bramsall was found by his housekeeper early one morning as she went to take her employer his pot of tea.
Mr. Bramsall! Mr. Bramsall! Come on, Spender, you weren't all that late. I heard you come in. Mr. Bramsall! Sleeps like the dead he does. Oh, well, let's hope you're decent. Mr. Now, keep calm, Jesse Moore. Keep calm. Don't touch nothing.
Police?
Oh, police? Something horrid has happened. There's been a murder. They've murdered Spender. I mean, Mr. Bramsall. He's lying there on the carpet with his throat cut. He was such a lovely fella. I'll never get another job like this one.
Did you telephone the police immediately?
As soon as I opened the door and I saw he was lying there, I dropped my tray and I ran downstairs to telephone. Oh dear. I've got the shivers, I have.
Mrs. Moore, isn't it? Isn't that the name you gave?
Yes, that's right.
Well, I don't think you need come into the room. Why don't you go down and make yourself a cup of tea and put plenty of sugar in it?
That's all right, Doctor. I'm a bit shaky, but I'll be all right. There, in that room. Look at him.
Dear, dear. What an unpleasant sight to come upon, Mrs. Moore.
Is this bedroom window always kept open?
Well, yeah, in the summer. Mr. Bramsell was a great one for fresh air.
I see there's a very convenient drain pipe. Well, Mac?
A very sharp instrument indeed. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say it's either an old-fashioned type of razor or a razor blade fixed to a handle.
No wonder they used to call them cutthroats.
Yeah.
What time did he come home last night, do you know?
Early. I heard the church clock strike 12. I haven't been sleeping well lately. But then I heard a taxi pull up and I heard Mr. Bramsell say, "That's all right, keep the change." Quiet as a church mouse he was. Always considerate with Mr. Bramsell. Of course, he didn't know I was awake.
You heard him pay off a taxi. Oh, that'll be very useful. Well, then what else did you hear?
Well, I heard him close the door.
Are you sure you heard Mr. Bramsell shut the front door?
Yeah, and put the chain on it.
Well, how can you be sure of that?
Well, because the chain was on when I got up this morning.
You didn't hear any other voice other than your employer's?
No, he was on his own, I swear to that.
Mrs. Moore, it's not yet 9 o'clock, and I've missed my morning cuppa. I wonder if you'd mind making some tea. I'm sure that Dr. McPherson could do with some.
Aye, that's a good idea. Now, and here, Mrs. Moore, take this pill. Go on, it's only a sedative.
Well, all right, Doctor, if you say so. I'll give you a shot when the tea's been made.
All right.
Tough old girl, there. Anyone else would have passed out, but not her. Insists on coming back to the ghastly scene. The scene of the crime was indeed ghastly. Sidney Bramsell was a short, rather corpulent individual dressed in pajamas made from a rich green silk. His almost bald head and curved stomach would have made ideal material for some good-humored cartoonist, were it not for the red stain on the pajama jacket and the horrible wound.
It's difficult to say at this stage, Carter, but he's been dead for at least 5 or 6 hours, I'd say.
Chances are more than that, Mac. What would you say to 7 or 8 hours?
Yeah, it could be.
I'm taking into consideration the housekeeper's statement. If he arrived just around midnight, did his ablutions, his shoes are placed neatly on the shoe rack, I assume he put away his suit tidily, the bed hasn't been slept in.
Which means that the killer waited until Bramsell went into that bathroom, stood ready to strike, and when Bramsell was about to get into bed, he killed him.
Yes, I think it's about the measure of it. Which means we've got to find the taxi man who brought him home. Shouldn't have much difficulty there. Something worrying you, Mac?
Aye, there is. You know, I've been mixed up with brutal assaults and murder for over a quarter of a century, and I've never become inured to this sort of thing. Seeing a sight like this, I mean.
A man with his throat cut? Neither have I. Our feelings may have become blunted over the years, but let's pray we never become so insensitive as to be able to look at a thing like this without a feeling of revulsion. But that's not what's worrying you.
Oh, it's the housekeeper. She's under emotional stress, all right, but to be able to talk to us so calmly with her boss lying there in a pool of blood...
She's a tough woman, all right. Just a minute. Moore. Jessica Moore.
What's crossed your mind?
The Moore case. Mrs. Moore was found not guilty. Her husband went inside for 10 years, having been found guilty of robbery with violence. They used to keep a lodging house near the Millwall docks. Many a drunken sailor had reason to regret seeking their hospitality. You realize what this means, Mac? We've only got her word for it. The open window may be a blind. She may have left the front door open. There may have been something in this house of great value.
Except what, Carter?
Except she must know that we always check on the person who first discovers the dead body. I'm going to take a look around the back. Can you come with me? Well, Mac, if the killer did gain entry through the bedroom window, he'd either have to use a ladder or climb this drain pipe. Take a look at this.
Yeah, that paint's very soft.
That's been newly painted. No one could have climbed that pipe without leaving some kind of mark, even though the paint is dry.
It's pretty evident that no one did.
And how are they going to get a ladder? They'd have to climb over the brick wall separating this garden from that one. Let's go over and take a look. Now, the street running parallel with this is called Ross Avenue. We'll have to find out whether anyone had access to that house, although it's extremely unlikely.
The culprit is hardly likely to knock at the door and say, can I take a ladder through your back garden over the wall to Mr. Bramsell's house, eh?
Pity it didn't rain during the night. The soil would have provided us with a footprint or two. Go on, let's try the back door.
Please, up.
Oh, well, she's opened it for us. Mrs. Moore, no sign of any forced entry. No tradesman's entrance. There's just this door leading onto the garden.
Oh, we always keep it locked. I've just unlocked it. And the key was inside the lock, so no one got in through this back door.
Oh, let's go and have his tea. When does your husband come out, Mrs. Moore?
Not for 2 years. If he keeps his nose clean. I'm scared, Inspector. Terrified. I knew you'd tumble to me, but I wouldn't harm the spender. He's been marvellous.
Now, you realize the position you're in. You say that the chain was on the front door, so no one could have gained entry that way. And even if they did, how could they put the chain back on the door?
Through the window. The open window. He had to come in that way. It had to be.
Otherwise, things look pretty black for you, Mrs. Moore. Because nobody climbed into that first floor bedroom window. There's nowhere to get a grip on the outside except by using the drain pipe, and that's been newly painted.
I know it was. It was painted a couple of days ago.
While you were waiting for the cops, you must have had a look around. What's been pinched? An old campaigner like yourself, that's the first thing you'd look for, wouldn't you? Did Mr. Bramsell keep any valuables in the house?
Valuables? What, jewels, antiques, that sort of thing? No. Always said he didn't go for possessions. Mind you, he always had quite a bit of money on him. That's why they called him the spender. They didn't call him that for nothing. He had art as big as the docks he did. Believe me, Inspector, I didn't do him in. I loved him. Came all the way down to East End India Dock Road.
I don't go for what Alan did, but I do remember when you and he had that cafe in Victoria Road. I got many a free meal from you both after I lost my job with Sampson's. What are you going to do, Mrs. Moore?
What can I do? I have to leave here by Friday, the latest. Every farthing we had went in solicitor's fees. I'm skint, broke. I'd go and scrub floors, except there are so many foreign girls about. It's good of you to call Mr. Bramsell. It isn't everyone who remembers a good turn.
Now, look, I've got a house in Lewisham. My housekeeper's had to go into a home. She's a very sick woman. I need someone to look after it. As soon as I read the verdict in the paper, I thought of you.
You mean you trust me?
They found you not guilty, didn't they? It'll be a good job. It's 6 years since I left this district. Things have gone well for me. I'll pay you a reasonable wage.
He was the nicest, kindest bloke you could ever wish to meet.
What business was he in?
He's got a warehouse. He imports kiddies' toys, that sort of thing. He's got an agency from behind the Iron Curtain.
I see. Where is this warehouse?
Millwall Docks, not very far from where we used to have our lodging house.
Now, you referred to him as the Spender. Was that his nickname?
Yeah, everybody called him the spender. He didn't mind it. It wasn't only because he was so free with his money. He was no fool, not by a long chalk. But when it came to tipping or helping someone out, well, he was known as a spender everywhere he went.
Did he gamble, Mrs. Moore?
No, he used to say it was a mug's game. I don't think he ever went on a race course in his life.
What about cards, roulette, that sort of thing?
I tell you, he hated gambling.
Then what was his weakness?
Girls. That was his weakness. The number of kids who've taken him for a ride.
Has he got a current girlfriend?
Yeah, but I don't know who she is.
Then how do you know?
You could always tell by his aftershave lotion. If he wasn't going to meet a girl, you wouldn't tell he'd got any on. But when he said, I won't be home for dinner, Mrs. Moore, and he'd stink the place out with his aftershave lotion, I used to think, oh, well, he's got somebody else on tow.
And what about last night?
You could smell it a mile off. He went to see a girl last night.
He did he? That's interesting. That's very interesting.